we return to the paths of Nazik Al-Malaika, childhood, to savor the fragrance of these beautiful images of innocence, sincerities, stories, and imagination.
Childhood remains the most beautiful stage of life. It's natural that our beloved poet remained attached to it through her life. Her childhood is present in most of her poems, as if she clung to it or longed to recapture that time of simple questions and boundless curiosity. We take an example of this innocence, spontaneity, and kindness, and talk a little about the paths of memory of an Iraqi poetess. Today, we travel the paths of Nazik Al-Malaika's childhood. From her home to her school, we follow the path she walked as a child, going back to the 1930s to retrace the journey of our beloved poet, a young girl carrying her bag on her way to school with her friends. A quiet morning in Baghdad to begin, like any Iraqi child, her simple and innocent school life, to enter her world, a world of learning and discovery. From this alley, she would walk wearing her little shoes and her elegant school uniform towards her school, Al-Markaziyya for Girls, which still exists today. As soon as she left the alley, she would see her school. The distance was no more than 10 minutes, but when measured by memories, it transformed into centuries, eras, and worlds as strange as her poems. As a child, she entered school, that noisy and wonderful world. Her classmates, her teachers, the shop, and the road between home and school. In this school, our poet spent her childhood, a childhood she would continue to sing and write her most beautiful poems until the end of her days. From this alleyway she walked, and her life flowed with her to the rhythm of her slow, trusting, childlike steps. This left her with a bittersweet nostalgia and a longing for a magnificent past. The poet Nazik Al-Malaika often wrote about her childhood as if she clung to it, refusing to let go, hoping not to lose the wondrous world, the world of innocence, of the native questions we ask before entering the complex arena of life and discovering its true meaning. Nazik began writing poetry at the age of 7 in a poetic cultural environment. Her mother was the poet Salma Al-Malaika, and her father was the author, writer, and professor Sadiq Al-Malaika. The poet left behind numerous poems that evoke her childhood and its paths. One can even deduce that she remained nostalgic for this period until the end of her life, sometimes with passion, sometimes with profound sadness. In the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s, our poet wrote her most beautiful and important collections: The Lover of the Night, The Depth of the Wave, Fragments, and Ashes. She speaks of childhood in her poems, excerpt from the collection Fragments and Ashes. And the child passed by. The child passed by, and I followed in his footsteps, asking myself, is there anyone else on this path except him? It is a face that knows no fear. It is an eye that knows no sighs. I said, childhood is the paradise of the heart. When will I become a child again? When? In her collection, The Lover of the Night, in the poem My Birthday, dedicated to her friend, she says, my childhood friend, whose name is all I remember. Sorry, childhood is lost in the past, and its joys have vanished from my eyes. She, if you only knew, is the most beautiful thing my heart possesses, and what my eyes have seen when I was a child, unaware of the secret, living in the heedlessness of my sorrows, like birds, filling the house with play and song, living my folly. My loving yesterday is dead, and I have replaced it with a bitter youth, tears and despair, and its white memories have faded in the ocean of my feelings and the night of my heart and soul. Where are those faces? How can I forget now? Who will give me back the dawn of my past? I traverse my entire life toward my past, and my feelings draw me back to the hills. My seat is atop of a gentle hill alone, or my wandering among saints and shadows. With me is my little friend. We build upon the face of the sand the breath of imagination. Our life is a story, a melody we sing, and two hearts in the purity of the sand. Where are you, my companion of yesterday? What have you seen beyond existence? Do you remember, as I do, the days of our youth and our lost dream? Or have you forgotten me and forgotten yesterday in the joy of a prosperous youth? Me never, I never forget, even if I have failed back into the distant past. Perhaps, my friend, you are like me, a ship on the seas, returning a wreck, and you spent your life in silent solitude, inspired by dreams. In 1942, she studied the oud at the Institute of Fine Arts, then theater, in order to learn the art of recitation and break with the monotony of recitation to create through vocal color and convey emotions. Regarding her study of French, she recounts, in 1949, she began studying French at home with her younger brother, but without a teacher, relying on an English textbook to teach her the language. She delved deeper into the language with her brother, eventually venturing into reading works of poetry, criticism, and philosophy. In 1953, she read literary text in French at the Iraqi Institute, such as short stories by Alphonse Daudet and Maupassant, as well as plays by Molière. However, her pronunciation was poor, as she was learning the language without a teacher to correct the pronunciation. And she says that she remained so until the end of her life. Nazik studied Arabic and graduated in 1944 from the Higher Teachers School. In 1957, her third collection of poetry, The Depths of the Wave, was published in Beirut. That same year, she was appointed teaching assistant at her university, where she taught literary criticism and prosody. In 1959, she earned a master's degree in comparative literature from the University of Wisconsin in the United States. In 1961, she got married with her colleague in the Arabic language department, Dr. Abdelhadi Mahbouba. In 1964, she and her husband worked as professors of Arabic at the University of Basra, where he later became president of the university. In 1968, she and her husband moved to Kuwait to teach Arabic at its university. That same year, she published her collection, The Tree of the Moon. Then wars ravaged our region, forcing her to leave and settle in Egypt, where she lived until the end of her life. In her last collection, The Sea Changes Colors, published in 1977, she evokes her alienation and her estrangement from her native and the paths of her childhood. She said, "We are strangers, and wherever we go, we encounter the silence of death. No face recognizes us, nor does one hand hold the other, and there is a coldness in the air, and the clouds of mist engulf us in a black alienation. To live in a state of presence and absence, a state of a gentle and uninterrupted sadness, to envelop oneself in a bubble of oblivion, far from the world of lights and media." While her words and poetry touched the entire Arab world, she preferred isolation and distance, with a strange tendency toward absence, living in her country and in the world of her readers, a great nostalgia for her. This absence reminds us of the title of her poetry collection, The Sea Changes Its Colors. In 1999, the Egyptian Opera House held a ceremony in her honor to mark the 50th anniversary of the introduction of free verse in the Arab world. Free poetry. Nazik was considered a pioneer of free poetry and wrote extensively on this subject. However, she didn't attend the ceremony due to her health and isolation. Her husband, Dr. Abdul Hadi, was present. The poem I Am Alone is her last published poem in which she mourns her husband, Dr. Mahbub. Nazik speaks of happiness, sorrow and childhood. We searched for happiness, but we didn't find her enchanted hut. We still ask for news of her from the nights. She is the secret of the world and the mystery of the ages. They spoke of her at length to my heart in the night of my childhood and youth. They imagined at length her meeting before my eyes and shared news of her in my dreams. Nazik passed away in Egypt on June 20th, 2007 at the age of 84. Despite the distance, the paths of her memory continue to preserve the echoes of her innocent, childlike laughter. She left us words about the world she loved and the paths of her childhood, where her innocent laughter still echoes. Paths we walk today, rekindling memories of wonderful childhood. These paths remained etched in her heart and mind until the very last breath. From these paths our poet departed for the paths of exile, scattering her beautiful words and speaking of the most beautiful chapter of her life, so that to follow these paths and remember life's most beautiful moments.
From these paths our poet departed for the paths of exile, scattering her beautiful words and speaking of the most beautiful chapter of her life, so that to follow these paths and remember her life's most beautiful moments.